He's really big on them making noise while the other team is huddled. He has like made that point 2 weeks in a row that fans typically get loud once they're already going to the ball, and he thinks the most important thing is when they're in the huddle trying to communicate the play.
Smart.
That does make sense.
Yeah,
of course
it makes sense, but I've never heard a coach. He's really like trying to coach. I've been very critical of Sean Payton. I want to give him credit because he is now also coaching up the fans.
Right.
He is like, this is how we have a real advantage, all those things.
When I was at the Bears game, by the way, just real quick, every time on the scoreboard it was like, quiet please, when they were on offense, because the Bears have never had a good offense, so they didn't know.
Just scream.
Just screaming at all
I don't
times.
like when I'm at a game being reprimanded by the
But
quarterback.
it's literally like, it's like Caleb Williams and the video board going, shh. It's hilarious.
All right, more likely the Patriots blow out the Broncos or the Broncos upset the Patriots. Parkins.
So I think the game will be close, so my prediction is not either one of these, but more likely is Patriots blowout.
There we go.
Right? I mean, it has to be on the board that Jarrett Stidham is just bad. If we don't think that Bo Nix is great, maybe league average, somewhere around there, maybe slightly above average, and this is his backup, so Jarrett Stidham is worse than a quarterback who is league average, and Drake May this year is a top 2 quarterback in the sport, that's a huge disadvantage. Like we've seen, if we define blowout as what? Double digits?
Yeah.
Right?
14.
More than that.
All right, well, Jacksonville, right? That's the only team that blew out Denver this year.
Only one.
Yeah, it happened once, and that game was 34-20. Bo Nix had a fumble and a pick, and Trevor Lawrence played a great game. Now, those turnovers only actually did lead to 3 points, but it was just a lot of empty possessions for Denver because of inconsistent quarterback play. And so, Jarrett Stidham, it is obviously on the board that this is too much for him. 4 career starts, 0 passes this year, that he is completely overwhelmed by the moment, and that would lead to a blowout.
So, yeah, it's certainly blowout is on the board, but I totally disagree with that. That's the more likely of the two things, because I think the Broncos winning is also on the board, and I think the Broncos winning is more likely than the Patriots annihilate them, and I disagree with the Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham analysis. Like, for Bo Nix this year was, I think, 27th in passer rating, for whatever that's worth. And they won a bunch of games this year with what was not league average quarterback play, what was bad quarterback play. I also don't think, let me make this very clear. I do believe Bo Nix is better than Jarrett Stidham. However, if Stidham were better than him, I don't think that means Stidham would have been the starter.
True.
You know what I mean? Bo Nix was the guy they drafted. They were growing with him. That I think that even if Stidham was marginally better than him in training camp, there was no quarterback competition in Denver this year. Like that was, that's the guy they would be going with. And so while I do not think it is on the board, Jarrett Stidham gives them the level of quarterback play they got from Bo Nix last week, and they needed every last bit of it. It's the best game of his career. I do think it's on the board. He gives them the level of quarterback play they were getting in September and October from Bo Nix, where they beat good teams and won games. And so if the path, just like you were saying, the path for a Patriots blowout is we know what it is. Stidham is just bad. The path for a Broncos upset, we also know what it is. That they don't recover half of Drake May's fumbles, that the Broncos defense that the Patriots offensive line gets beat up again, and the Patriots defensive front goes from going up against 2 of the 2 worst offensive lines in the playoffs to the best offensive line in the playoffs, and they're not able to wreak as much havoc. And this is a 13-13 game in the balance, and you have a young quarterback on the road to go to the Super Bowl. Like like you said, I'm also not predicting the thing that I think is more likely, but I think we are more likely on Monday to be discussing a 16-13 Broncos win than a 31-10 Patriots win. I do think that.
Yeah, look, I think both things are on the board. And I'm with Nick, though. I'm not made my pick yet, but obviously I think I'm going to pick the Patriots. I expect them to win, but I could see a Broncos win. Like, it's not hard for me to envision a Broncos win. And like you said, it's just the pass rush, which is the best in the league, getting to Drake making some mistakes, The Broncos playing a otherwise great game defensively and smart game offensively. And Stidham being careful with him, not putting him in positions to make mistakes. He's probably a smart quarterback and a quick processor, and he does just enough to get them a few points. Maybe one touchdown or none, but maybe one touchdown he throws and they run for another. Low-scoring game that Denver wins. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Patriots.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, close game. Like that is what my pick would be. My bets will correlate to that. But I just think the biggest X factor here is a quarterback who's thrown 0 passes this year.
The last 2 years.
Yeah, and so I think it is most likely, like, what's the more likely result? Jarrett Stidham great game or Jarrett Stidham bad game?
Jarrett Stidham bad game is a more likely result, but there's
a middle ground.
And also the Broncos, I don't think the Broncos lose all of the bad Jarrett Stidham games. They lose all of the awful Jarrett Stidham games, but I don't think they necessarily, like I don't think Jarrett Stidham bad game guarantees a loss. I also think, right now will say, at the very least, I believe the best first half any quarterback will have played against the Patriots in these playoffs will be Stidham on Sunday. He is going to be better than Herbert was in that first half, and certainly better than C.J. Stroud was in that first half.
It would be impossible to be worse.
The Patriots forced, to their credit, just 1 out of 100 quarterback performances from the opposing quarterbacks, and those games were one-score games deep into the second half. Like the Patriots, and again, the flip side to it, Wilds, is I don't think, we might disagree, I don't think Drake May's played a great game yet. He's had great moments, but I don't even know if he's played a good full game yet, and they've won both the games comfortably. So that's a testament to how good the Patriots team has been. But I don't think there's going to be huge drop-off from playoff Justin Herbert, whatever's going on with C.J. Stroud, and Jarrett Stidham, as far as the quarterbacks the Patriots have been up against.
I'm pretty confident that the Patriots are going to blow out the Broncos.
Oh, you're predicting a blowout.
Love that.
Yeah,
Good for you.
I think so. And we have won both of our games pretty easily. Like, we won the Chargers game pretty easily, and Justin Herbert, like, people were picking the Chargers to win. It wasn't like all of a sudden it was oh my goodness, turns out the Chargers offensive line isn't great, and the Patriots took care of it. A lot of people, some whole shows, picked the Texans to win. They knew that C.J. Stroud had a bad game against the Steelers.
But you thought the Texans game was an easy game, or you guys pulled away at the end?
Right. They were within
the final score
going
it's a 5-point game, and Booty makes the catch of the year.
Right.
Like,
does that count or no?
No.
Yeah, but that was at the end.
But you're saying
the final score was a blowout,
like,
technically,
you
but it was.
Watching that, you were at the game.
No, I mean, I
felt like that was an easy win.
I felt like we were in control of the game.
I do think you were in control of the game.
So
never in danger of losing it.
We put up 28 points. We had a pick 6. That, like, it's a team game. So here's why I think we're going to blow out the Broncos. One, and this is like, well, this is going to be close. This is going to be, iron sharpens iron. Drake May is the best completion percentage. Broncos defense is, best at stopping it. But Danny, I'm going to read you a list of quarterbacks, and you tell me which one you think Drake May belongs in. And look, hurt people. Okay? I have been having to deal with the slings and arrows of a cupcake schedule, knowing that the Broncos also had a cupcake schedule. But everyone can, and Drake May has gotten happy off of playing weaker defenses, even though the defense is actually okay. But I think the Broncos defense has also gotten fat and happy off of playing these quarterbacks. They held Cam Ward to 12 in his debut, Jake Browning to 3, Justin Fields to 11, Geno to 7, Davis Mills to 15, and these count even though they were late in the year, Olajuwon to 13, and Trey Lance to 3 when the Chargers were resting everyone. Yeah. So tell me if Drake May belongs in that caliber of quarterback or this caliber of quarterback. Josh got 30 this weekend. Trevor got 34. Daniel Jones put up 28. Jordan Love put up 26. Mariota put up 26. Jackson Dart put up 26. Dak put up 24. So I don't think it's going to be 13-10.
That's a good.
I think it's going to be 21-28.
stat.
I do think we can have, if not a defensive score, I don't think a guy who hasn't thrown a pass in 2 years is going to have a flawless game, but Drake May might be rattled. I don't think that actually makes
I think that,
sense.
no, I think the rattled would be, it's the crowd noise, it's the road, it's all of that. I think that really matters in the NFL playoffs. And I also, if we're going to do the tit for tat on that, what I will say is this, because Drake May's been great on the road. The converse is, who are, if we have it, I think we do, the road defenses that they've played. So none of them are good. The best one's the Bills, and you swore to me all year the Bills' defense was bad. So this is far and away the best defense he has faced in a tough environment. And so I do think like that is the...
And there's a big mismatch of Broncos pass rush, Patriots left side of the offensive line. Like that could just... There could be 3 more fumbles in this game.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is just a undeniable mismatch.
If you turn the ball over a bunch of times,
Correct.
I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
He has to hold on to the ball, but I am predicting a comfortable win, and I think that instead we come on like, oh, it's, 14-10. I think we're saying, of course. The defense is really good, and they're playing an MVP against a guy who hadn't thrown a pass in 2 years.
When you say it like that, it makes a lot of sense.
You know what, Danny? That's why you're teammate of the year.
Oh, wow. Thanks, buddy.
Rams Seahawks, Sunday at 6. This one's on Fox. Darnold says he's going to play confident. Just for the record, not always. Danny, is it on the board that the Seahawks are an all-time great team?
Shockingly, yes.
I like this.
I've said that they have been the first or second best team in the NFL all year. And they have the most blowout wins, and they have the best point differential. So those were things for like this season. But I honestly hadn't really looked until Pack Stats yesterday in the comparison to the Legion of Boom of where they ranked historically. But if you do scoring 28 or more, and we have the list of the teams here, and allowing 17 or less, it is a who's who of some teams that you just know. And only the 90 Bills did not win the Super Bowl. And if you look at it, it's like, okay, does it feel like a Sam Darnold-led team belongs on that list? Probably not. But if all of the underlying stats and the accomplishments, and then they have to get it done, right? Like the 90s Bills also did not win the Super Bowl. But if they actually end this thing with a Lombardi trophy, and the stats are their point differentials all time, their points allowed is low, their points scored is high, why wouldn't they be?
Go ahead.
I say the thing, if they can you can put that list back up there. The only quarterback who wasn't great,
Mark Rippon.
Yeah, Rippon and Jim McMahon with the Bears.
Well, right, but Mark Rippon he was second team All-Pro that year, 4th in MVP.
That wasn't Riggins. Riggins was before that.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
You got Hall of Famers on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of the elite teams in history have had great offensive players, great like Hall of Fame. Now again, some of these defenders might emerge as that.
JSN,
but Seattle's got JSN. But outside of him, there's nobody I see on that offensive team, that I'm saying like is all-time great. And so that would be, and then you got the Darnold factor. Unless is he about to go on? Now, look, 5 years from now, if he has become one of the best quarterbacks in the league, won a Super Bowl, then we'll look back at this like, oh, yeah, that'll change things. But right now, it's hard for me to say a team is all-time great with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
So I think on that graphic, the only team that I feel like would be a comp is the 91 Washington team that our friend Stink was on. Because when people talk about the greatest teams in NFL history, nobody ever mentions them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They were not wildly memorable.
Right.
They didn't have a bunch of iconic players. But if you look at the data, it's like certainly one of the most dominant single seasons ever. And this is similar to, I want to make this clear, the Texans thing I was doing last week. It is predicated on if they end up running the table. You know what I mean? If they win the whole thing. If this team wins the whole thing, they will have gone 17-3. the 3 losses will have been week 1 of the season, where they had down 4 with a chance to win, fumble the ball.
Does not count.
Famously.
38-35 game to Baker and the Bucs, where they're up 7 with 90 seconds left, allow a touchdown, fumble, either a kick return or shortly thereafter, lose on a field goal. And by 2 to a Rams team, when they turned the ball over 4 times, that they then went back and beat twice more.
Yep.
Would have had one of the hardest schedules in the best division in football. And their first playoff game, they won by 35 points. And so if they do all that and then beat and then win the Super Bowl, it will, I think, objectively be one of the greatest seasons ever. An all-time great season. It doesn't feel like that. But it's just
all season long we've said, are there any great teams? And this is a year that feels like a down year kind of for the league.
How much of that, Brew, do you think is because we don't really if Seattle was on the East Coast in a market, if
the Cowboys were having this,
even if the Giants
But a lot of it is that, like I said, even that Jim McMahon team, they had Walter Payton. They don't have an elite all-time running back, an all-time quarterback, JSN, okay, I'll give you him.
Could be.
But that Washington team, that's a great comp. Like you said, the data would say they're one of the all-time great teams. Does anybody think of them as one of the all-time great teams?
I wonder if it's because we don't have any momentum for this team. That it's not even like the Chiefs team that you saw, lose to the Patriots, but here comes Mahomes and Tyreek's explosive. And even the Eagles had a great run. Like they lost in the Super Bowl, then a down. You have a story. This is just bang. Sam Darnold's now on the Seahawks, and they're an all-time great team.
What did they win last year?
10. They won 10 and missed the playoffs. And
missing the playoffs, I guess, because they were good last year. McDonald was talked about as a really good coach last year, and their roster is deep. And I went back and looked because Stink would say 91 Washington, best team in NFL history, and then you go back and look at it, it's like Ernest Biner, Darrell Green, you know what I mean? It's like a weird Darrell Green, excuse me. Yeah, it's just it's like a weird. It's a weird moment in time, but there were 6 guys who made All-Pro that year.
Can I ask you another question, Danny? And don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't know it, but you are the king of cool stats.
Oh, here we go.
Does the 20 whatever you put the cap on it, 28-17, I think, is the new sort of offense skew this at all when we're comparing teams from the 90s, or is it?
Oh, you mean because it would cut in both directions because that would mean it's harder to keep teams under 17.
How it affects it.
I think this is. Listen, I'm going to pick the Rams this weekend. I think the Rams had bad punt coverage on Rashid Shaheed's return, and that's the reason they're not the 1 seed. I've disagreed with Brew.
Rashid Shaheed.
But I've disagreed with Brew that there's not a great team. But the great team that I think is playing in this game is the Rams. It's I am not projecting any of this, but this to me feels like as an element almost of fairness. If you have played one of the toughest schedules in the toughest division, had the best record, annihilated your first playoff opponent, and you have been blowing people out all year. Even if going into the year we didn't really believe in you because we don't really believe in your quarterback and you play in the Pacific Northwest, to me that is...
You are right there on the verge of calling Sam Darnold elite, though. You're right there on the verge.
No, but you could be on an elite team without having an elite quarterback and some of the guys there. Yeah. What's interesting to the era point, though, the Eagles would tell you that last year's team was an all-time great team.
They kept saying it.
And by point differential, they were. And by the stretch that they went on down the stretch. Yeah. I do think maybe now there are, the teams at the bottom are worse. So we have more blowouts. I would like to look into that.
Yeah, I think that is a thing. That just the bad teams are really bad. That there is no sort of middle class of the NFL anymore.
Yeah, because this team, at the end, they are going to have a very easy case to make, even if no one will believe it.
I'm going to call Sam Darnold elite.
You wouldn't do that
Yeah,
40 minutes ago.
You just laid out a great point. You just ran the hardest schedule. They're blowing
Darnold
teams
guy.
out. You did
No,
all
that was about the Seahawks.
But
You
it's also
called the
about-
team elite.
Well, who's leading the offense?
Sam Darnold.
There you go.
You walked right into that one.
Guy's an elite. If a restaurant,
I
like
don't
this is
think
the
you
best
really-
restaurant, this is
You
one of the
don't
best
really
restaurants in
believe
the world. Hey, is the chef any good? No, actually, no.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Frenemies, a breaking news edition. The Ravens have just made it official in the last minute that they have made a hire. Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter is Lamar Jackson's new head coach. The Chargers defense ranked 9th in points and 1st in opponent passer rating. The 42-year-old Minter, former defensive coordinator at Michigan, of course with the Chargers, had a coaching stint earlier in his career with the Ravens. Nick, do you like this hire for Baltimore?
I don't dislike it. I feel like for almost any of the first-time head coaches, a lot of people in our position, opinion is informed by what we are told about the person. And so he did seem to be, of all the first-time head coaches, potential first-time head coaches that were in the cycle, the hottest name 2 months ago, 1 month ago, certainly on the defensive side, with Clint Kubiak being on the offensive side. I do find a lot of it very interesting. Like, first of all, almost the entirety of his kind of adult football life, if you will, has been with one of the Harbaughs.
Yep.
So he was with Baltimore from 17 through 20 with John Harbaugh, brief stint at Vanderbilt, then Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, wins national championship, and then last year, obviously, or last couple of years with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, or with the Chargers, and now he takes over for John Harbaugh. I think it is interesting that the Ravens' plan is for Lamar. They hope for Lamar's entire career him to never have an offensive-minded head coach, and I also think it is interesting that they are taking what I consider a big swing here rather than going stability of whether it's Mike McCarthy or whomever. Like, I know they weren't interviewing Matt Nagy, but someone who has been a head coach before, they're taking a swing, and it's impossible to judge it. It does seem like he's a very Ravens type of hire, but I thought they might go outside of the box on this.
Yeah, I think that Jesse Minter did a great job with the Chargers. Like, if you just think about their roster, their defense outperforms the level of talent that is on their defense. They have good players, but Herbert's expensive, Slater's expensive, Alt's expensive. They've used first-round picks on the offensive side of the ball. And then you look at their defense and it's like, wow, number 1 rush defense 2 years ago. This year, number 1 in opponent passer rating. Dealt with some edge rushing injuries this year, Khalil Mack most notably. And they still performed pretty consistently. I have no other deduction or conclusion to come to there than that's good coaching, right? Like, they overachieved relative to the talent level on that side of the ball. You know, I like younger coaches, so 42 years old can just, you got a long runway in theory. If it works,
Yep.
You can be there for a long time. But I too would have thought they would have gone offense, because the thing you've got to figure out is, can you transition Lamar Jackson from great quarterback and elite athlete to just great quarterback as the athleticism wanes into his 30s? And now the immediate question becomes, who is Jesse Minter going to hire to be Lamar's offensive coordinator?
And listen, our friend and colleague Diana Rossini reporting that Lamar, has some affinity for Cliff Kingsbury. That to me would be very interesting.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I think Cliff is a very good offensive coordinator, and I think that's the job he should have. Whether it was at Texas Tech or at Arizona, I didn't love Cliff as a head coach, but everywhere he's been as an offensive coordinator makes a ton of sense. It also, I believe Jesse Minter's first job is developing a relationship with Lamar Jackson, because the fact that Lamar, whatever the relationship with Harbaugh was at the end, well before we were at the end, the head coach of the Ravens over the last 4 years has not been able to get an accurate read on the health status of the quarterback of the Ravens. The quarterback of the Ravens is the same guy. We now have a new head coach, so I don't know what pointers, John Harbaugh can tell his brother to tell Jesse, or how they can get together, whatever it is. But I find it very interesting that, that they are hiring a guy that was there when Lamar was drafted, a guy that there's not many players on the defense that were there then, but that the team itself is familiar with, and a guy who learned under John Harbaugh.
Right. I mean, Mike McDonald was there. They lost him. Obviously can't bring him back. He's the head coach in Seattle, but they're bringing this guy back. There's something like Apple releases a new product, and you're like, it's probably going to be good. They got into the watch game. It was very popular. I do think that there is something to be said of the Ravens are a really good organization, and they know this guy, and they deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Just benefit of the doubt, tie goes to competency. They're a well-run organization. I'm sure, not sure anybody can flame out or get over-promoted, but they know this guy, and they deserve the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get it right.
Oh, and he was I think the hottest candidate of any of the people that didn't have coaching experience. I like this hire more than I would have liked Robert Saleh. I'll tell you that much.
I agree. More upside.
And so I like this hire more than I would have liked Jeff Hafley, which was one we didn't spend much time talking about, but I was a little surprised that he got a head coaching job this cycle. I don't want to repeat myself. It is bold to say we're the Baltimore Ravens. We're just sticking with a defensive culture and a defensive head coach. Brian Billick they had those great defenses, but he was an offensive guy.
Yep.
John Harbaugh was a special teams guy. And so I guess another way to look at it is this is the first defensive-minded head coach they've had, because Billick was offense and Harbaugh was special teams, even though we thought of those teams as when they won championships as defensive teams.
Yeah, we talked about how special this job opening is and how rare it is to be able to coach an MVP under 30. They're hiring, they know how good the job opening is, and they're entrusting it to this guy.
To reiterate that point, in the last 50 years in the NFL, man, prior to 3 weeks ago.
Twice, right?
No, well, twice, but the same player.
Same team.
The only MVP quarterback in his 30s to have the head coach, or before he turned 30, pardon me, job come open was Brett Favre. And Brett Favre, it wasn't because they fired Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren wanted more power. They wouldn't give it to him, so he left.
Yep.
They then hired Ray Rhodes, didn't like it after 1 year, brought in Mike Sherman. This never happens. And in the last 3 weeks, two of these jobs have come open. One of them's now filled. And now we see what the Bills do.
Yeah, it being filled by a first-time head coach is a pretty crazy thing. Big come-up for Jesse Minter. Let's talk Matt Stafford, because he is on the precipice of reaching a second Super Bowl. He obviously has the one ring, and people think he is about to win his first MVP. I'm going to make the case for you here, and the question is, what does a second MVP mean for Stafford?
A second Super Bowl appearance mean for Stafford? And when you just start parsing the list, put it together. These are quarterbacks who have won an MVP and appeared in 2 Super Bowls. He'd be the 12th to ever do it. And the list is a who's who of the NFL. Everyone who's eligible to make it into the Hall of Fame did, except for Joe Theismann, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. They'll be there shortly. But if he wins the Super Bowl, you can cut out 4 names from that list, and it gets down to 7 guys who have done it. And am I ready to make a Matt Stafford is the 8th greatest quarterback of all time argument? No, but he is also going to be top 5 in passing yards next year, assuming Aaron Rodgers retires. It is very quickly going to be a pretty ironclad all-time great case when it comes to accomplishments for Matt Stafford. So listen, I think let's just go player for player.
Sure.
And let's just say wins this weekend, we don't know what happens in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we can take it step at a time, sure.
Matt Stafford, all-time quarterback ranking versus, we'll start with the easy one, Phillip Rivers.
Stafford.
Versus Eli.
Stafford.
Now it gets harder. Versus Big Ben. So Big Ben
just
never.
makes it.
Big Ben never won an MVP.
Right.
But to me, he is even with, and I'll say, even if he wins the Super Bowl, I don't know if I'd elevate him ahead of Big Ben.
With an MVP and 2 rings and top 5 all-time passing?
So Big Ben is, the consistent excellence, also 2 rings, would have a 3rd appearance.
Yep.
And then the other name I was going to say, Drew Brees. Drew Brees, no MVP, only 1 Super Bowl. It would be hard for me to argue, even though he would have those accolades, like Big Ben and Drew Brees, not on any of those graphics.
Right. Brees 2nd all-time in passing.
Yeah, I'm not ready to elevate him past the room those guys are in. I'll put him in the room with them. And so all those guys you mentioned, especially on your second graphic, are in a totally separate room.
I mean, the second graphic is Brady, Bradshaw, Montana, Mahomes, Bart Starr, Peyton Manning, and John Elway.
Yes.
It's arguably the 4 of the 7 greatest quarterbacks of all time. The counting stats piece of it for him is interesting because he's always just been a gunslinger. He played on bad teams, so he was trailing a lot. Some of it's a garbage time argument at the time in Detroit. But if he does play 3 more years.
Well, he's not playing 3 more years, bro.
He's 37 years old.
He almost retired. He's not. Listen, if he compiles more and more and more, but
Well, I mean, he plays 1 more year, he becomes the 5th all-time leading passer. If he plays 3 more years, he becomes 3rd. Yeah. And he would pass Favre and Favre and Payton. He'd pass Favre and Payton if he plays 3 more years. It's just he needs a few thousand yards extra, then all of a sudden gets him up there. I don't know. It's an exclusive club.
Listen, here is where I will just pump the brakes a bit, and I am a huge Stafford guy. As of 6 weeks ago, he was an underdog to be a Hall of Famer. And so I'm not going to say within 10 weeks of being an underdog to be a Hall of Famer, he can then become a top 10 all-time quarterback.
I get it, but if those 6 weeks you win a Super Bowl, a second Super Bowl, and a league MVP,
but
it's a pretty big 6 weeks.
I don't think he's had a better career than Big Ben. Even if he wins it. And I don't think he's a better player than Drew Brees. But
I don't either on that one.
But Eli, Rivers, the other MVPs of his era, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, obviously, I have met. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.